Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Proud Skill Worker. Today, we have an opportunity to talk with Jason. Jason, thank you so much for being on the show today.
I appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
So, Jason, we always like to kick off the show. I like to ask people how they got into the trades, tell us their life story, as little detail or as much detail as you want to get into, just to kind of give everybody listening and watching a snapshot of what you've been through, what you've come through, and really just your journey to where you are today.
All right. What I'll start off with is 2017, April. I was a returning citizen, and if you don't know what that is, that's the PC way of saying formerly incarcerated. And so what exactly transpired is I went out looking for several different labor jobs, factories, digging ditches where I could, and I got an opportunity to go work for an electric company. I worked there for 3 years as an apprentice electrician. And went to school at the same time, was able to get a degree in engineering systems technology. And then I went and got a job with Kellogg's, huge pay raise, got married, got a kid, and I progressed my career throughout from apprentice electrician all the way to senior automation and controls engineer. So that's kind of my little story in a nutshell.
It's great. I think, first off, returning citizen. What a great title.
Right.
What a fun way to say that.
Right.
Testament to you, who you are. And just to be clear, everybody has a past and everybody has a future. Once you do your stuff, you move forward, you move on. There is no excuse to be stuck in what you were and what you had done to move forward. So I'm incredibly proud of you and what you've become. Your family is as well. You are. And guess what? That's all of our life story. We all have that story somewhere where we just kind of move forward. So thanks for sharing that. I know that some people are hesitant to share that, but I think it's important that you do. So thank you so much for doing that.
Right.
Along the way, though, Jason, what do you think what's been the biggest challenge for you as your career has progressed from apprentice to big, long title, which comes down to program and build automation systems?
Right. So one of the biggest challenges was actually finding employment with that past. But, even there, I had to try harder than anybody else out there to stand out, above the regular applicant. So that's probably been the biggest challenge that I've faced. But like I said, I've persevered. So been fortunate.
That's great. As you were getting into the trades and you said you said digging ditches, doing anything you could, and then you ended up as an apprentice. Is that something you had always wanted to do, first available, that you just found out you were really good at? I mean, why'd you start going to school for it, and why'd you stay in it?
So when I was in high school, I was taking dual enrollment courses to be what's called a certified production technician. And that covers, basic OSHA safety, manufacturing processes in production, quality control, and preventative predictive maintenance. And I've always been a builder. I've always liked working with my hands. I've always liked to also help teach others, what I know and what I learn along the way, help build other people. So that's kind of where that idea came from. And I figured, I might as well build on that and turn a degree.
It's nice when things work themselves out that way, huh?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your background in PLCs. I mean, how much of your day do you spend either in a PLC program, managing a PLC program, or adjusting or monitoring a program?
Okay, so current day, I actively work on projects. I've got one right now where I am retrofitting what's called a singer, and it does exactly what you think a singer would do. It singes hair. Yeah, basically shoots big flames out and singes hair off of hogs. And so we have some really old legacy items. And what that means is, they're out of date, they're obsolete, and they need to be brought over to the next gen or the latest gen. And so that's my task right now. And that's not only dealing with the PLC programs, but that's also sitting in AutoCAD and redoing the prints. I'm currently reprogramming this one from scratch. I've done that on numerous occasions where I've gone in and that's really kind of my specialty. It is going into these older legacy machines and kind of redoing them from scratch and maybe adding some safeties like some of the new GuardMaster stuff that Alan Bradley offers, GuardLink, that kind of thing. So to answer your question, every day, all day, that's my life.
So as you're going to build these programs, and it's not just that we're not talking ground up new builds, we're talking rebuilds. So as the system is working, as the tool is functioning, you're on the backside of this also trying to revamp it, trying to redo it. So when you get tasked with writing and or converting code, what are some of the first questions you always ask in order to understand the project better?
So there are numerous answers to that question because I ask myself a lot of different questions. What kind of resources do I have? What kind of, and that's kind of a broad question. What kind of budget do I have? And going back to resources, like, do I have prints, mechanical and electrical? Do I have OEM contacts? Does the OEM still exist? Did they go out of business? So, so those are, some kind of generalized questions. And also, how does the process work? How do I improve upon this process that's already there? Those are just kind of the general basic questions that I go on. And I have to, a lot of times what ends up happening is I have to go through and decipher a lot of the old things that don't necessarily convert as easily as say like Slick. Slick has a conversion tool that you can use to convert over to a Control Logic's or Compact Logic's, Studio 5000 environment. And it's pretty seamless and easy, but when you're going from something like iDEC over to Allen Bradley or Siemens over to Allen Bradley, it can get tougher. So,
yeah, are you seeing more of that conversion from the Slicks to the RS 5000, or are you seeing more of that Siemens cross Logic, or like what's the biggest thing you're seeing right now?
So one of the biggest items, it would be probably the Slick and MicroLogic's processors, getting those out, because obviously the only place you're going to find those maybe Radwell and eBay, and that's about it. Allen Bradley doesn't manufacture them anymore, so that's something that has to be done. And then it depends on the manufacturer that you're working with, but a lot of times you'll find that they do have a third party like Siemens, and they're trying to go all Allen Bradley in the plant, or it could be vice versa, where they have some Allen Bradley and they have some Siemens and some Bosch Rexroth, and they want to stick with one thing, so they want you to convert all the third-party devices over to that other one. So, it can go in either direction, but mostly I see Allen Bradley old to Allen Bradley new.
One of the questions that I wanted to really get into today, if you can give me maybe a 3 to 5 minute answer on, is we hear a lot in the maintenance field about troubleshooting the PLC of working machine goes from operating on a Monday to not operating on a Tuesday. And a big thing we're hearing now is, well, there's something wrong with the PLC. Jason, I'm gonna turn it over to you, but I want to give my opinion first so people can either verify how wrong I am or how not wrong I am. Programs don't change overnight without a human component, typically. So I'm really curious to know, what are some of the most common misconceptions about PLCs and how much impact they typically have on a program running or a machine running properly?
So, funny answer to that question. A lot of people think that there is a mystical fairy of some kind that rewrites code, and that's just simply false. There's usually what's going to happen is there's something within, you might have a move instruction that moves a certain time to another timer somewhere. It moves a numerical value into a timer and it throws your stuff out of whack. You may have communication type issues, but to answer your question, no, there is no magical fairy that runs around and rewrites code. And it's funny, I get that a lot. Just the other day, I was helping troubleshoot a Lantec wrapper, and I had a supervisor ask me to come out there and verify that this valve is working. So I went out there with the laptop and I forced the outputs, which that means that I'm turning the outputs on, without anything, without the necessary stuff to be on. It's like, if I want this on, it's going to be on, type thing. I'm going to send 24 volts to that coil, so that's what I did. I forced the output, right? And the electricians tested and they had 24 volts to their coil. So they had just replaced the coil too. So, that ruled out the coil, that ruled out the wiring, that ruled out the PLC. But for some funny reason, I got called back more than once to come back to that machine for the same issue. And it ended up being, a pin that the mechanics forgot to put back into the control valve, pin that goes inside the spool. So it ended up being a mechanical issue. But, like I said, no magical fairy running around changing code.
On that note, you brought it up. In this situation, it was a pin. In previous situations, it's been a bad valve. What are you seeing are the most common errors on the maintainer level that are typically kind of pushed back or blamed on the PLC program itself? Like, what are those most common errors that you see? If there are some, I'm always so fascinated by the idea that unless it's a plug and play on a component level,
right,
your PLC program shouldn't need to be adjusted.
No.
At some point it might be if you change a component level or if you change a component. But what's the most common error you're seeing?
So what I've seen quite often is I will have an operator, and they will change a numerical value inside of the HMI. And for those that don't know what an HMI is, that's like a touch screen that you control stuff with on the machine. So they'll enter a numerical value that's like completely throws the machine out of whack, and then it's like, oh, it's the program. And to an extent, that does change. That's like that move situation. It'll move a numerical value into another part of the program. That's usually what happens. Is you'll see where an operator was able to change a value they should or should not have had access to, right? And it can cause some lengthy downtime. It does happen. And luckily, Rockwell's deployed some tools to help deal with that.
In those cases where it's a numerical value, and are you able to fix that by a hard reset of the machine back to kind of the previous saved code into the PLC, or do you have to go back through and find where that numerical value landed and adjust it?
So that's kind of a double-sided answer. You could possibly re-download an older version of the program. I would not recommend that, but that is an option. But most of the time, you kind of have to go in and dive deep into, what exactly went wrong, where that value changed. And that's where centerline settings are important. So you have process engineers and things like that go around to the different lines and they'll record values. That, at least from what I've seen in some of my past jobs, and they would go around and get center lines on all the machines, all the settings, and they may not match up, things might have changed over the years. They may not match up with what the OEM book says, and of course, I've seen a lot where, somebody gets the OEM book out and they put all the settings to what the OEM book says, but it throws it completely out of whack because, something here or there has been changed and it's no longer that value. So taking record of those changes, that's probably one of the biggest things you can do. That's one of the biggest OSHA violations. Is not recording or documenting properly. And not that that's specifically is an OSHA violation, but, it just goes to show that, recording events that happen can really save you some headache in the long run.
Is recording those centerline values, is keeping track of that part of a predictive preventative program, or is that part of a PM program, or is that just kind of at the will of whoever the engineer is?
So it depends on the facility. I've seen it where the engineer just went around and did that. And these weren't big facilities. I'm sure they have different methods on a case-by-case basis. But a lot of times I've seen manufacturing engineers do it, which is kind of odd because that's kind of outside of their job description. But I've seen that happen. I've seen where it's been a PM, like a predictive preventative type deal.
Yeah, it makes the most sense for me for that to fall into that PM or that predictive stage, just as something that, we always have a fallback that's no older than X number of days. So we always have this that we can fall back to if something does go a little haywire. So that's just where it made sense to me.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right, but...
Right.
Jason, I'm curious. This is the part of the show, for me, I love to turn it over to the guest. And if you had 5 minutes to talk to every technician in the field, what would you say? You're up on your soapbox. You have one thing to say. Everybody in the industry is listening. They don't have a choice. What's your word of advice, your tip, your trick, whatever it is? What do you have?
This is kind of for everybody. I'll touch on a couple different things. Number one, education. Education's important. Training. Take all you can. If you're not learning something new, on a regular basis, you should be. That's how you advance, or at least I believe that's opinionated. Somebody might argue different, okay, but that's okay. If you're like I was, and you're a returning citizen, now a reformed citizen, thankfully, I encourage you to pick up a skilled trade, because it would be difficult, to progress, but you can do it. It's not impossible. I mean, I'm here. So, but just keep on the right track and continue to try to learn new things. That's the most important thing I think anybody could do.
I think that's a common thing that we hear here on the show, Jason.
Right.
And you said that it's an opinion. I'm going to put it out that it's fact, that training and education of some kind are the only way for people to progress their career. Now, whether that education is formal or whether it's on-the-job training education or whether it's hands-on training, you're not getting any better in your career or growing as a person is if you are not doing one of those things. So you gave it as an opinion. I'm going to push it out as fact that the only way to get better is to get better. So
right.
I don't know any way around that. If someone can disprove the fact that is your opinion, I'll walk it back. But until then, pretty confident in my statement.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere that might, but that's their prerogative, right? But no. Yeah, education, number one thing. Number two, don't give up. Keep plugging away. When life throws you a rock, and it hits you in the face and you fall down, what do? You get back up, you dust yourself off, and you keep going. And that's important. That's something my dad used to tell me all the time. Don't give up. So things might get hard. You might not understand something, but keep going. Practice makes perfect, right? Just like you were just saying, right?
Jason, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you being on the show. I really appreciate everybody who is watching, who's subscribing, who listens. We're incredibly grateful to be a part of the Proud Skill Worker here. I know I am. It's an honor for us to have individuals like Jason and everybody who's on the show. If you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out, comment, subscribe. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have a conversation. And again, thank you to Jason. Thank you everybody for watching. Have a great day.
Yep. Have a good one.